Assalamu alaikum and peace and blessings be upon you and your family over the world. I think sometimes because
I am wearing an outfit from
the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, so I'm happy to be on the show with you.
I thank you so much.
A woman shall rise as high as her God-given gift.
Assalamu alaikum, peace and blessings, and welcome to another episode of At My Sister's House. I thank you for joining us. I am so excited. I have my sister I have known for years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It has been, over a decade.
Yeah.
We've been knowing each other. And I love this sister. She is so diverse. She has so much she brings to the table. And you rock your Islam beautifully.
Oh, I love it.
It is a true reflection of who you are.
Thank you.
And you show so many sides of it. Because sometimes people think of religion and think it's stuffy. And you show so much beauty and fun with it. And especially being born in Islam. So I want to welcome my sister, your sister, our friend, Sister Zarinah El-Amin today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sister Zarinah, I thank you. I thank you so much for accepting this offer to be on the couch, as they say.
Yay, I'm comfy over here. Thank you so much for having me.
Let's start with the beginning.
Yes, ma'am.
Of course, I want you to introduce yourself, but you have a long, rich history in Islam, going all the way to your father, whom we love, Imam El-Amin, and your mother, Zarinah El-Amin, who I love. And may Allah be pleased with them both for their great, great works. But let's start from the beginning. Who is Zarinah El-Amin?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you so much. May Allah put blessing in this platform that you have created. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's lovely to see. And I think that it has already been inspiring so many people. So we just continue to look for the ascension and for it to keep, reverberating out into the world. So my name is Zarinah El-Amin. I am from Detroit, Michigan, right? I'm the daughter of Dr. Cheryl El-Amin and Imam Abdullah El-Amin. And my parents are two of the founders of the Muslim Center, which is one of the largest Black Muslim centers or Black masjids in the Detroit proper area. Them, along with other families, came together and said, we want to make a viable Muslim community right here in Detroit. And they established the Muslim Center, which is literally in the center of the city.
Yes, it is.
So right off of the Lodge Freeway, anywhere you want to get in the city, you can get there in 15 minutes. It's like in the smack dab middle of the city. And honestly, just how it's the center of the city, it's been the center of our lives for the last, I'm 43 years old. So I grew up in that masjid, and I grew up around people who were not only looking to spiritually enhance themselves and try to figure out how to get closer to God themselves, but were also very dedicated to making sure that the people around them also had access to this system that cleaned them up, that helped them become very good people in the society, that helped them create good, strong families. And so my parents and then our extended family, my aunties and uncles, the sisters and brothers that I grew up around, I watched them build a community from scratch, like I watched them put this block here and take this block and scratch that. We're going to put this in here. Like they literally built a village from scratch. And I think that is really the biggest gift that my parents gave me was not only the village that I inherited, but also the process of how you put together a community through all of the ups and downs, the mountains and the valleys, all of it that comes and is required to build something out of scratch. I was able to see them do it in real time, right? And so that, has been an absolute gift for me.
And I must say, a gift for the city. The Muslim Center is that place that is literally just where everyone can come.
Yeah.
And I mean, literally everyone. The Feed the Hungry programs, the giving of clothing. They have health care up there. They offer workshops. There's even a nice place in the back to have coffee, tea, and some live jazz, poetry. There is so much going on. During the month of Ramadan, thousands in the month is coming in and out of there to not just do their prayers, but to make sure people are fed through that whole month. So it's literally a center that has helped the people, the community and the city of Detroit. And we are forever grateful to your parents and all of those that started that. That's a beautiful thing they did there.
You know, we have this concept in Islam called Sadaqah Jariyah, right? So it's the concept of a charity that keeps on giving on your behalf. So when you die, you know, you have children, of course, that pray for you, and you pray that they hold strong to the rope of Allah and they pray for you. But then also those works that you did that can continue to live on, like planting a tree or digging a water well or such. And so when I look at what my parents were able to build, man, I'm like, all right, you know, oh Allah, I pray that all the work that they did serves them on the day of judgment, and that they are pleased and they are, you know, spacious in their graves, and inshallah, they are nice and cozy, and they have gone back to Allah in a well manner, right? You know, that's and I really feel in my heart that they did good. You know, as my dad would have said, he said, "You done good." And I'm like, "You did good,"
and they have. May Allah be pleased with their works and efforts. Now they have produced a daughter. Who is a world traveler. Now I have to read this. And what's funny, Sister Zarinah, as I wrote one thing, it just kept going and going and going. Cultural anthropologist, entrepreneur, publisher, author, world traveler, host of Enliven Your Soul, the founder of Beautifully Wrapped, the Headwrap Expos, the calendars, the publisher. It is so much to this, as they say, you could unfold the onion in layers and layers. There's so much. Is there one thing that has been your, I'll never walk away from? This is the thing I will be doing for life by Allah's permission.
You know, one of the things that I feel I govern my life by is that Allah gives us the ability to pivot, and Allah gives us the ability to use whatever skills we may have in whatever way we feel that we can use them in order to enhance ourselves and our society. Like, I believe that you are charged with bringing it out there. And so one of the things, I was just thinking about this earlier, like, I was like, you know, God, thank you so much that I never feel like I have to stay in one little place. After, like, oh, you know, like I was saying, I started out in engineering. I used to work at Ford Motor Company. I worked at Merck. I was in the corporate America, you know, writing computer programs and stuff. And I was good at that. You know, I have that type of brain, but it's not really what fulfilled me. So even though the money is great, you know, I could have stayed in there and had a very comfortable, easier, I won't say easier life, because my life is very easy. Alhamdulillah, I thank God for it. But most people follow what they say, which is go to school, get good grades, graduate, get a job with benefits, and bam, you're going to be good. But so many women and men, you know, end up in this like rat race, and they end up in this safe space where they're so afraid to express themselves for fear of financial, you know, reasons, for fear of what people are going to say about them. You know, there are people that think I'm quote unquote flaky. I've heard this before. You are always changing. What you doing now? Oh, you're doing something else? Like I've heard them say that to me. And I say, yes.
Keep up.
You know, yes.
Keep up. Because I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow. So keep up.
And I like it like that. You know, I like it like that. So I feel that I can live my life and I can do my projects and my businesses like art. So Bob Ross, you remember him when he he was out there painting. Gonna put a little tree right here, put this little tree right here, this little beautiful, you know, leaf. He painted all of those canvases on PBS or whatever that show was that he was on, right? And you didn't just paint one, He painted thousands of canvases, right? And the same thing with me. I don't have to just do one business or one book or one project. Whatever I feel that Allah puts on my heart that I want to bring out, hey, I'm going to do it.
And the beauty of it is that, like you said, we learn to, as your show is called, enliven our souls. Because a lot of times we're doing what we're supposed to do.
Right.
Or
what they say, what you think. Yes.
And we get easy roads.
Right.
But there's no happiness and satisfaction in it.
Right.
And to be able to say, I live my life.
Yeah.
Comfortably the way I want.
Yeah. With
the guidelines and respect. That's a beautiful thing. So let's talk cultural anthropology.
Okay.
I can look up and see that you're somewhere that I didn't even know was on Earth. On Earth. You're there and you're making it look like I got to go there. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm going there one day. How did you get involved in the world traveling? I've seen your mom with you on the travels as well.
So
how did you get? So how did you get involved in traveling around the world?
You know, I was trying to figure out, like, where did it come from? And I honestly, I think that Allah just put the desire to travel in my heart. You know, like I said, I went to school for computer science. And I remember at Howard, I went to Howard University, HU. You know, I went to Howard. And I remember I went to visit a friend in Switzerland. That was my first, like, international experience, right? In Switzerland, I loved. Like, I haven't returned since then. Like, that was over 20-something years ago. But I remember the feeling.
The impact of it.
I remember the energy in the air. Like, you know, so when it was time for me to graduate, I graduated from Howard and I had to make a decision. Am I going to stay in my corporate area or am I going to do something different? So I decided that I was going to go into the Peace Corps, right? I was like, I'm going to go into the Peace Corps because then I could travel. I could go see other places and this and this. So your girl got rejected. They were like, you're not going to the Peace Corps. I got rejected. So my teeth. They said, so this is a trip. Okay, just real quick. My teeth are not jacked up. Right. So, you know how you have to do a medical exam when you do different fellowships. You have to do a medical exam. I passed that. You have to do a physical. You have to do a dental exam. So when I did the dental exam, turns out my wisdom teeth had not come up, right? And so I got rejected because my wisdom teeth hadn't come up. And if I had been placed like out in some type of rural place and your teeth come up, they may have to medevac you out. Right. So I'm explaining this for a reason, though. Because when I got rejected from the Peace Corps and I had told people, like, you know, I'm not going into the corporate, I'm going to go into the Peace Corps, this thing, like, people already thought I was crazy for doing that, period. And then when I got rejected, they said, like, see, God, that's not your path, right? That's not what you're supposed to do. So I got rejected for the Peace Corps. So then I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Like, should I go back and get a job? Blah, blah, blah. Then I decided that I was going to go into teaching English as a second language. And I specifically picked that because it is a field that you can go anywhere around the world. I was like, okay, well, if I get the certification, I can do this anywhere, right? So I signed up. I got accepted to a program in Morocco. I picked Morocco because it was Muslim. They spoke Arabic and they spoke French, the two languages that I wanted to be fluent in. Still ain't fluent in either one. But that's neither here nor there. That's right. So guess what happened when I got accepted to the program? Okay. Then guess what happened? 9/11. Program canceled. Shut down. Oh. And I was like, oh no, this is like 2 strikes. So everybody like, Z, how many signs you need? God giving you signs. What you gonna do? Like, I mean, it was like all this chatter. Like, look, chick, like, what are you gonna do? And I was like, but I still want to go. So I applied to another program in Egypt. And that program actually went through. So I left and I moved to Egypt and I ended up living there for just under a year. I stayed there for like under a year. But when I was in Egypt, like, that changed my entire life. My entire life. One, I'm in Africa on the motherland for the first time. But Egyptians don't think they're African. Right?
So that was a whole nother
experience. You know, I learned about racism. I learned about colorism. I learned about classism. I learned all of those things. I learned about myself too, though. So I'm learning about the world, and then I'm also learning, like, who are you, Z? You know what I mean? Like, you're here, no family, no friends. You can become or look like you are whatever it is that you put forward, right? No, but there's nobody to check you. So you only put forward like your true essence of what you really are. And so travel like literally opened me up, taught me about myself while I was also learning about the world. And from Egypt, it was on and popping, you know?
You have not stopped since.
It was on and popping.
You have a favorite place? Like if you could go back there every year.
You know, every year for my birthday, I always go to a new place, right? This is my thing. I always go to a new place. I have not yet found the place where I want to retire, if you will. But last year, I went to Turkey. Turkey was amazing for me.
Was it?
It's a Muslim country. Right. Every other corner, there's a new mosque, but they're all gorgeous mosques. Right. They're beautiful. They're not like some little rinkety-dink, you know, like little mosque.
Storefront, they just built up real fast.
Gorgeous. It's a walkable city. Like, it's absolutely beautiful. The food is good and fresh. I mean, Turkey, I could see myself there for
a lot of the switches.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, because we covered being an entrepreneur. And there's something that you're doing that we have on display here that I really want us to talk about. And it's being an author and a publisher. So you're covering many dynamics under that umbrella. Why did you get into being an author? I know something about your father's statements as well about a series going on. Yeah. But let's talk about the author in Sister Zarinah El-Amin.
It was by happenstance. It wasn't really like intentional in the beginning. You know, I was doing my master's in anthropology, right? And you know, when you do a master's or a dissertation or a doctoral program, you have to do a thesis or dissertation. I had did this study on how single Muslims were struggling to get married in Islam, right? American Muslims. And when I did that study, a lot of people knew that I was doing the study and they kept asking me for the results. Like, what were the results of your study? What did you find out? Because I was interviewing people all over the country and stuff. And so it like piqued people's interest. They wanted to know what it is that I had, what I found. And I tried to give them the thesis, right? I was like, well, read the thesis. And they was like, I don't want to read that thesis. Like, that's some boring crap. I ain't in school, you know what I mean? So they were like, no, they didn't want to read the thesis. And so I was trying to figure out, well, how am I going to give them the information? Like, they don't want to read the thesis that I wrote. How can I give it to them in a format that they will actually accept and want to read, right? So that's what led me into publishing. And I was going to go the traditional route because I'm in academia, right? At this time, I'm working at the university. So I'm surrounded by academics and that world. And so I felt like I had to do an academic press. And I was shopping it. And then I was like, you know what? No, this don't feel right. You sell it to them and then you don't get any proceeds and it take 2 or 3 years to get out. I was like, nah. So that's what led me to self-publishing. So I changed my thesis around. I self-published that book. And that first book is still a textbook that's used in universities today. This was 2009, I think, when I published that book. It was called Jihad of the Soul, Singlehood and the Search for Love in Muslim America. So what I learned, though, Sister Fatima, was that like when you have this book, right? Like when you have a book and when it is a good book and you position the book in a way that people can use it, like that book becomes like a little worker bee for you. Like it goes out and it brings you opportunities that you would have never, ever even imagined. Excellent. So I became a paid speaker. I became a workshop presenter. I got invited to do things that I would never have even thought of, you know, and
the
all of that came, the book opened the door for that. So,
now you're a self-publisher, been doing it a while.
Yeah.
You have lots of those other authors now under your belt. What is the motivation of the authors and the books that comes from your publishing? Yeah. What inspires you? What is it that you're trying to portray in your message?
Yeah, you know, for a long time, I kept thinking I was going to retire from books because books is hard work. It's cerebral, right? Like I literally have to think a lot, you know. Sometimes I want to just be quiet, but I be thinking about my clients' books while I'm trying to go to sleep, you know, like it gets in your head and stuff. And so for a little while, I was like, you know what? I'm not doing books anymore. But when I have like our recent client, her name was Dolores Daima Jardin, 87 years old. She turned 88 when she published her book.
Wow.
88 years old and wrote her story, Etched into My Soul, right? Like 88.
Wow.
Had been wanting to write a book for decades.
Right.
And so her coming to me and for us to be able to bring her story to life, like to me, that's priceless.
Yes. Yes.
I realized my mom died, my dad died, my great aunt died, my cousin died, right? I kept seeing all these deaths. And I was like, people in our community, you know,
Right.
passing. I'm like, every time one of them passes, it reminded me of that saying where
Right.
when an elder dies, like a library is burned, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, all of our wisdom, our knowledge, our experiences, our expertise is ending 6 feet in the
Right.
ground.
That's right. Excellent.
It's ending
Excellent
up
point.
6 feet in the ground. And then we're looking around like, why are our communities not, you know, growing? Why are we not prospering? Why are we not evolving? It's because we are not building upon the lessons that they've already learned. And so what I realized is that our societies just keep going in circles because we are not using the information that we have at our disposal. So I said, okay, you know, I can't ask my mama no more questions. I wish that I had more time to go and ask her about her life and such, but I can't. My dad, you know, we were able to publish his book in his words, and I'm so thankful for that. And that's what really keeps me in publishing is the realization that, one, this stuff, this knowledge, these wisdoms, these expertise, they go down into the ground. And really, when they're down there, you can't dig it up.
Back.
You can't get it up. You know, it's gone forever. That side of it, from the community side of it, drives me. And then from the family side, you know, my children can read something that their grandfather wrote in his own words. So they don't have to just rely on my memories or my story. They can read in his own words. 200 years from now.
That's right.
His great grands or whatever, you know, whatever generation it is at that time can read about him in his own word. That stuff is priceless.
Yes.
And it's stupid, honestly, if we don't take the time right now to preserve our stories and our loved ones' stories when we have all of the tools at our disposal.
Right now. You know, I said this to you before we were on air. Brother Akbar, who is the international representative for the Nation of Islam, he said to us at a Dean Intensive Academy, and I believe we were in Baltimore, and he said, every one of us need to write a book. We need to write our own story. And if we don't write it like what you're saying, no one can write our story like us. Right. No one can record what we've done, what we once said, what we've been blessed to experience in our lifetime, like you can. Right. Yeah. So it's almost like you're duty bound to the rest of us to share that story. Yes. You know, so I think a lot. Now, you are also with your publishing, making sure that the story is told on many fronts. Yeah. I want to cover it 2 ways. The first front is through your father's suggested series. Yes. At My Feet. Let's talk about that one. Yeah. That's a beautiful concept.
So as I said, my dad and my parents were some of the founders of the Black Muslim community, right? And Black Muslim community in the Detroit area. And their generation is a very unique generation. So one day I was talking to my dad and he was like, ZB, you know, I want you to interview some of my friends and talk to them about coming up in Islam, what we did and this and this. And I was like, you know, okay. So when he said it, I was like, okay, you know, first, honestly, I was like, this is work. He always giving me projects. I was like, he always giving me these projects. Right? Like, another assignment. Dang, you know. But after that something, you know, and I was looking at him and I'm looking at the state that he was in, and I was looking and I was like, first of all, Zarinah, your father asked you to do something, so do it. You have the skills to do it, so do it. And yes, it's extremely important for us to capture this knowledge, right? So so my father, you know, had this idea for us to interview some of the people that were his like comrades, you know, some of the other men and women who really established some of the stuff. And I was like, you know, I don't know. It's a lot of work. I don't know if I can really feel like doing it. But after a while, it's like, okay, we'll do it. But then I said, okay, if I do it, I'm going to have to do it in my way. I'm going to have to do it to the level that I want it to be done. Right. And in order for that to happen, I knew it was going to be bigger than just me interviewing like 2 of his friends. Right. So we put together this whole thing. It's called At Their Feet, and it's centered around Black Muslims, and it's their stories and their life experiences. Yeah. And we wanted to capture specifically the elders of the community. Right? Like the over 70s, of the community. And what we did was that we interviewed some. We also had other programs that interviewed some. So there's a group through Dream of Detroit here in the Detroit area run by Dr. Alyssa Perkins. She had a group of teenagers that were going around and doing oral stories in Detroit. Wow. So some of the stories in the At Their Feet book came from that project through Dream of Detroit. And then I hired another young lady to come in under my publishing company, Book Power Publishing, and she interviewed some others around the country to add to the stories. And then we had a call for submissions. Right. So we put out a call for submissions, and then other people were like, you know what, my grandmama should be in there, or my daddy should be in there, or my husband should be in there. And then they also included and submitted stories from their families. So we ended up with 50 dynamic stories all over the country of Black Muslim elders. And it's us listening to their stories. Them speaking about everything from marriage to business. Right. I mean, to establishing communities, all kinds of subjects. And it was a huge success. But you know what? So we did this book signing, I guess you will, book launch or whatever, at the Muslim Center here in Detroit. And all of the local Detroit-based authors who were featured in the book, we invited them to come out, and it gave each one of them their own individual table, right? And we had a panel, all of that, and they had their own table, and they had their own individual book signings. Right. Do you know, I mean, they felt like Beyonce. They were like, oh my God, the sense of pride. Man, I was looking around at them, and I was like watching everybody go up to them and get their books signed by them. And powerful. I mean, it was amazing. Right. And we've lost, I think, 2 or 3 of the people who were featured in the book since then. And so I was like, you know what? Like, this can't be the only volume. Yes. So we're going to do it again. We're about to open up a new call for submissions, and then have people submit stories to us. I got a couple people. Yes. That kind of stuff to me phenomenal. Is priceless. Yeah. And it, again, back to what we said, capturing those stories before those voices are lost. Yes. And now that's captured. That is forever. Right. And hundreds of years. Yeah. That is written. Yeah. And I think it's a phenomenon that is here in the city of Detroit. Mm-hmm. And I am so excited for you. And I pray to Allah you have much success in that. That is beautiful. Now, so that's the series. Yes. But now you're publishing, you're teaching courses and classes. What's the thought behind that and bringing in new authors? Yeah. So a lot of times when people see someone doing something, they're like, well, how you do it? You know what I mean? Exactly. And that's really how my company, Book Power Publishing, came about. It was people seeing the success of my book. They saw me go from a regular little grad student, into having this international platform. Right. Really from the back of a book. Right. And they were like, well, how did you do it? Right. And so that's how I actually started helping other people to publish their books. Because what I noticed is that a lot of people will publish books, but they don't always follow the right process. Right. So then they end up with this book that's like on Amazon or whatever, and then they don't sell a lot of copies. And then they're like, but I did the book. And I was like, you know what? There's actually a process that you have to use. Other steps. If you want to make it be really a worker bee for you. Mm-hmm. So I started, sharing my process and tweaking my process and fine-tuning my process so that we were able to help other people do the same thing. And what I realize now is that there are so many stories out there that a lot of times people are afraid to bring them out. You know, they fear that, oh, I'm not, Michelle Obama. I don't
Right.
have Oprah's name or platform. So who's going to want to hear my story?
Right.
But if you can tell your story to, some friend and they're inspired by what you've done, then you learn something that somebody else can benefit from.
And like you said, it's a worldwide platform.
Yeah.
So we have the world to share your story with and connect with. I sat in on one of your classes you had.
Okay.
And I'm talking about a wealth of knowledge. That was a wealth of knowledge. And we'll make sure the link is here. So for others who would like to find out more information about it. Now you have something coming up in December.
Yeah,
right?
We're going to kick off. We have a 6-week program that's going to come up. And this is centered around people writing nonfiction books. So whether they're writing a memoir or they're writing a legacy book, right? I'm going to show them a very simple framework that they can use to organize their thoughts and get it down on paper and be able to use that for building a platform, or really just to share and preserve their legacy, share their message with the world and preserve their legacy. So our new 6-week program is going to be kicking off in December, but leading up to that, I'm going to be continuing to do our trainings. Right now, how do I say this in a respectful way? Like, not everyone can afford to hire me, right?
Right.
I'm not cheap, right. And I'm very good at what I do, and so there's an investment that comes with having someone like me on their book dream team, right? But I wanted to figure out a way that I could provide services to everybody, because whether you have a lot of or disposable income or you want to make the investment or not, I feel that you should be able to put your stuff out. Right. So this is why I said, okay, let me write the book. Everybody can pay, $20 and get the book and be able to implement it themselves. And then also I like to do free training. So usually every week I'm doing at least one free training in our Facebook group. They can just Google my name, Zarinah El-Amin, and it'll come up. But that way, I really just want to make sure that people understand that when you have a skill or a piece of knowledge or an experience that God gave you, don't just sit on it. Like, share it with somebody else. Make sure that you're putting that out there into the world and do it in a quality way.
And your blessings are that way. When you're giving out, so much come back your way. We're going to provide the link, how to contact our sister, find her on social media platform, also the link to the book.
Book Power Method. So it's bookpowermethod.com. It's
there it is.
Easy.
But it will be here, and you'll have it found attached here. And when you get more information, please keep us abreast. We'll make sure our people know about it. Sure. Get that message out so that everyone can be a part. Sister Zarinah, with everything you do, you're a mom, entrepreneur, phenomenal sister. What's the one thing that you want your legacy to be?
I pray that Allah allows me to be used and to be an inspiration to others, to enliven their souls. My big umbrella is always enliven your soul, right? Like, get in alignment with what God gave you. Because when you enliven your soul, you enliven the world. And that is really what I pray, that Allah continues to allow me to use whatever skills or whatever ideas He gives me so that I can bring my best self out, and then hopefully inspire people to bring their best selves out so that we can see some positive evolution in our society.
Well, I am so thankful to Allah for you to be my sister and my friend. I will be in the workshop in December, just so you know. I thank you. Writing the book I have is so tedious.
It's so good. That journal, I love it. I got to look through it. Thank you.
Allahu Akbar. But it's what you said is tedious.
Yeah.
The detail. And again, like you said, you just can't throw it out there and hope it all work out. Right. It has to be work behind it. So I hope and pray that everyone listening will take seriously writing a book, writing their story. Because some people have been through some things that trial wasn't just for you.
Absolutely.
That trial was a blessing that you made it through so you could share it with others who might not think they can make it through. So writing that book, there is, you would be amazed how many books are sold, billions around the world each year. So your story has to be out there, has to be told. And I thank you for setting up the platform for others to learn that and how to put their life trial, their life activity, their life dreams into words.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I thank you for being a part. We're not going to stop here. I got to have you back again.
Would love to come back.
I love my sister. I love you for being here, and I thank you so much. We thank you for being a part of At My Sister's House. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, follow. Be a part of At My Sister's House movement and our community. We thank you for joining us tonight, and you have a blessed evening. And don't forget, have a great day on purpose.
On purpose.
On purpose.